Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to see a mind-blowing game played between none other than Magnus Carlsen versus his favorite rival, who is Alireza Firouzja. And the game is from the Champions Chess Tour Julius Baer Generation Cup 2024. It's a rapid tournament with 10 minutes plus 2 second increment. We are in the winners bracket, and the player who wins this will qualify for the finals. So there needs to be 4 games, and in the 3 games both the players are having the points of 1.5 and 1.5 each. It's the final game, and Magnus is playing with the white pieces. The first game was won by Magnus with the black pieces. The second game was won by Alireza Firouzja with the black pieces. The third game ended in a draw, and now we have the fourth game. So I don't want to waste any further time. The game is complete roller coaster, and you're going to love it a lot. So let's start. So Magnus with the white pieces starts the game with 1 e4. c5, we have the Sicilian, knight f3, e6, and now we have the move d3. Knight c6, and now we have g3. So already white is trying to play the king's Indian attack. If black plays this setup, we have the king's Indian defense, but if white plays it, we have the attack version. Now we have d5, queen to e2 by Magnus. It's the theory, but in the low level we are not really aware of it. And now we have knight to e7. So already after queen e2, the general way for black to play here is to play knight f6, bishop e7, and short castle. And white pushes the pawn to e5, we have knight d7, and black tries to expand on the queen side, whereas white tries to expand on the king side, go for a king side attack. So as per I know, Alireza Firouzja, he likes to attack, but he doesn't like to defend. So he played the move knight to e7. I'm going for a bit different setup. Now we have bishop g2, and now we have g6. So his intentions are pretty clear. He wants to put the bishop on the g7 and basically not allowing white to attack on the king side so easily. We have h4, and now we have h6. So many players in this position would like to play h5, but this is already a bad idea because white can already plant a piece on g5, whereas black can't really plant any piece on g4. So it's already good for white. So that's why h6 is a very classic move. If white pushes h5, we have g5. So we have e5, bishop g7, c3, and now b5 by Alireza Firouzja expanding on the queen side. Bishop f4, a5, knight e2, and now we have b4. So going for a very typical break. This is the main way to play against the king's Indian. And now we have a3, takes, and now we have a4. Rook b1, bishop to a6, developing the bishop, not really committing castling. Because if black commit castling, maybe white is having some ideas with h5. That's why we have short castle now. And now knight f5, rook to c1, rook to b8, and now we have knight to f1. I was thinking, can white capture on b8? But after queen b8, rook b1, the idea of Firouzja is to play queen s7. And after short castle, rook b8, and black is having a very fine position. So instead, after queen into b8, white is having a very strong move, which is to play c4 in this position. And after c4, we have queen b2. C4 doesn't look like a natural move because the queen is simply jumping in on the queen side. But it's actually fine because after queen d1, if black takes, rook a1 is already better because a4 is hanging up with many pieces hanging. So instead we have short castle for black, and the position is still very complicated. So going back a bit, we have knight to f1 by Magnus, which is already a mistake. Now rook to b3, jumping in with the rook. Knight to e3, another mistake. And after knight e3, a serious good move for Alireza would have been to simply do a short castle. And I, personally speaking up, don't see any problems in the black's camp. Black is having a very nice rook on a3, on b3, which is threatening to take on a3 maybe. All pieces are developed. Basically, in this position, the only problem black is having is to keep the king in the center. Just castle up and you're having a perfect position to play. But we have instead rook into a3. Alireza Firouzja became a bit greedy with rook into a3, and now we have knight into f5 by Magnus, gf5, and now we have rook to a1. And now you will realize now the a4 pawn is a bit soft pawn. So we have takes, and now we have the move c4 by Alireza Firouzja. So now basically Alireza Firouzja is stepping into a wrong direction. The best way to play here is to play queen f5 defending the a4 pawn, queen c2, bishop b5 defending the pawn, and after bishop d2 attacking the queen goes back, c4, takes, knight b4 coming up, a very strong move. It looks like if the bishop moves queen f4 or rook a4 is winning, so knight b4. And the whole point here is you have to move the queen, the bishop will fall back. And if we take over here on b4, you can't really capture the bishop because the queen is always hanging. So that's why this would have been the best, but c4, a bit ambitious move, but a wrong move, because here Magnus played the move queen to c2. Rook into a4 was also fine, doing the same thing. cd3, queen b2, and you can already realize white is having some serious play on the queen side, whereas black's king is still in the center. Maybe queen a3 coming up, not allowing black to castle so easily. But we have queen c2 directly, which is still fine. And now we have queen to b6 by Alireza Firouzja. Maybe after queen c2 he realized that he's going into a wrong direction. So here the best way to play for black is to play bishop b5, still defending the a4 pawn, taking with the pawn, which seems kind of like we don't really want to take with the pawn. We really want to take with the bishop, but that's a bad move. So after taking with the pawn, rook b1, queen f5, queen b2, short castle is still fine for black. Because if you try to capture on b5, we have rook b8, and if you try to capture the queen, the rook is hanging up. So you have to take the knight, takes, and here after rook b8, this is fine for black. And I think personally speaking up, black will be able to win this because of the strong a pawn. And black is having a rook for the two minor pieces, but this a pawn is just too strong. But we have queen b6, and now after queen a4, you will realize now black is suddenly having a bad position, a very bad position. The bishop is hanging, you have to move the bishop up, and now we have queen a3. And now Alireza did not castle back 3 to 4 moves back, but now Magnus is not really allowing Alireza Firouzja to short castle now. Queen a3 not allowing to castle up, and now we have bishop f8. Now Alireza Firouzja was already frustrated by his play now, so we have bishop f8, queen a8 check, king d7, pawn takes. Now simply the king is in the center, so it's best for white to rip apart the center. Bishop takes. If you take with the pawn, rook d1 is already a deadly move. So bishop takes. Now we have knight d2 attacking the bishop. Bishop to d3, c4. As I said, ripping apart the center. Bishop to g7, queen to a4 because the queen was hanging up. So now queen a4, queen to e5. So already Firouzja is having 2 seconds on his clock, and there is a 2-second increment, and Magnus is having 30 seconds. So now Magnus took around 18 seconds to play rook d1, and now he's also having 12 seconds on his clock. Bishop e2, attacking the rook. The rook goes to b1. We have rook to c8. It's still completely winning for white. Queen to a3, bishop to f8. So already now Magnus is once again now under a lot of time pressure. He's getting his nerves. He's having only 4 seconds on his clock. Queen to a6, bishop to c5, and now we have c into g5 by Magnus. Like the best move would have been simply bishop e3, which is completely winning up. You take on c4, it's a check, takes, and basically in the very end position, white is simply a piece up and a completely winning position. But now we have c d5, and now we have queen f2 check, king h2. So try to pause the video and try to find the best move that was missed by Alireza Firouzja. It's black to play. Okay, so if you found it, congratulations. The queen is simply hanging up. The queen was simply hanging on a6, and if you simply capture the queen, it's game over. Takes, rook takes. You can't really capture the rook because the bishop is pinned up, and the game is over. I don't see any play for white, and Magnus can really resign the game. But instead, we had e into d5. So Firouzja missed that the queen was hanging, and now it's once again completely winning position for white. So queen b7 check, king to d8, queen takes, bishop to e7, queen takes the pawn, check. So basically Magnus is getting some serious time on his clock. King over here, rook b7 up. Now idea is queen f7, queen d7 mate. So now we have knight to e7, and now we have finally e6 by Magnus Carlsen, threatening to mate him in only 2 moves. And you can't really defend now, because if you try to defend with bishop a4, we have bishop to h6, and if you take over here, we simply have queen into e7, and it's a mate. So it's nevertheless it's still a mate. So yeah, that's why after e6, Firouzja simply got flagged, lost on time, but it was completely losing in position for black. But a completely crazy game played by both the players, Magnus Carlsen and Alireza Firouzja. Alireza is still in the tournament because now today is the match between Maxime versus Levon Aronian, and the person who wins will play against Alireza Firouzja, and the person who will win against Alireza Firouzja versus maybe Levon or maybe Maxime will challenge Magnus Carlsen. So it was a complete roller coaster game. I simply like the heartbeat simply changed. Like the bar was simply going up and down. It was completely crazy if you watched it live. So yeah, this was the game. So like I personally feel that like Alireza Firouzja's level has really improved, to be true. And the opening he went for to play against the King's Indian attack, maybe you guys can also opt this opening if you want something to play against the King's Indian attack. The setup he chose was also very interesting. Not really castling now, putting the bishop on g7, putting the knight on e7, expanding on the queen side, playing b4, takes, and Firouzja was having a perfect position over here. Like, if he would have short castled, we can really imagine some different results in the position. But definitely a very interesting game. We loved it a lot. So guys, if you learned anything new from this video, try to like the video, share this video with everyone, and make sure to subscribe to our channel if you are new to our channel. I'm going to come up with these more interesting videos like this. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching One Shot Chess.